Hello everyone, my name is Maria Shandorova and I'm Head of Product Development at Inphinity. Welcome to Technical Tuesday. Inphinity Flow is this process visualization we have released a few weeks ago. You can use it for visualizing different processes, connect it with already available KPIs and measures, use it as a part of data literacy or data quality in your company, or be even more creative and use it as a hierarchy chart, for example. What I will show you in this Tech Tuesday video is a very cool and creative combination of process visualization, Infinity Flow, and Infinity Forms, the Breitbach extension, for process definition. I can enter a new node. Let's say it will be a new activity. Update the data, and here it is, a new step in my process. And if I want to connect it with the rest of the process that's already here, I can very simply add this new connection, this new line that will start, let's say, in question and leads to my new activity. Save data, reload data model, and here it is. Let me show you how you can develop an app like this. Let's start with an empty application. What we need is to define something. We can start with a table that will contain information about nodes. Naturally, we will need some node identification. Small tip, you don't need to enter any content in this table. We don't want to hard code any data about this process definition. So we can run the script just like this. And now go to the sheet. The Breitbach table, Infinity Forms, can be found in Custom Object section, Infinity Bundle. And this table structure is called Forms General. So I can simply drag and drop it here and add node ID as the dimension. Except for node ID, I will want to also add some information about node type and maybe some description. So in Forms Configuration section, I can add new editable fields in this table. Node type, and since there is a predefined list of supported node types, I can use select box as a field type. I hope it's correct. We will see. And one other field for node description. By default, my data is stored into predefined XML file, this form general. But I want to create a new data storage only for node definition, and second one for lines definition. And this whole forms data storages management is done in Forms admin application on the sheet Forms configuration. So I will just add a new width type general. That means it's this Forms general table structure. dt nodes. It will be XML file with this name and dt lines as ID and another XML file. Right now, I save my changes into config file. If I want to apply these changes, I need to update form settings that will restart form service. And this new data storage can be now used here in configuration in properties panel instead of this default one. Naturally, we can now save the data, but that's definitely not what we wanted. We want to add user the possibility to add new rows, add new data here in this table. And this setting can be found here in Advanced Settings section. If we now add a new row, let's say we'll create the start and click Save the Data, we will see this pop up, and it's not an error. The reason is that the dimension, this unique identifier of a row, is the field that connects editable data with the data model. And if we just save the data, the node ID start wouldn't be in a data model. Exactly like this. What we need is to load the data from the XML file to our data model. Because as you can see here, we have saved the data in the XML file. It's just not loaded into a data model yet. So let's do it. If you use database as a data storage, naturally you can use click native connectors for loading the data into a data model. If you use XML file, you can utilize this subroutine we have generated for you. In documentation, you can find this subroutine and copy and paste it to your script. Just like this. You don't need to do any changes in this subroutine if you don't want to. And if you want to use it, you will just copy it and use it somewhere after this definition of the subroutine. And the syntax is with the call function. Again, these three parameters are better described in documentation or a previous TechTuesday video, so I will be very quick. So the first parameter is the path, where the XML is stored together with the XML itself. The second parameter is this key, and the third parameter is binary attribute, whether the most actual data should be identified during this subroutine load. We can try it right now, check it in a data model. And it's here. The output of the subroutine is always called forms data. You can change it in a subroutine, but why? You can just use it in the next resident load and connect it to your existing data model. In our use case, concatenate it to nodes table. What's important is to change this key, because this dimension is always called the key in XML file. And it's only up to you how you will connect this table with the rest of the data model by naming convention you use. So what can I do is to concatenate. Yeah, it's nodes. Oh. The data with already existing table, and then I can simply drop forms data table. And as I mentioned, I need to rename the key. We can also drop field key. Based on my experience with this auto-generated script, I'd suggest you to check this string after adding some more than one row. Sometimes this string is changed. So let's try to add a new row. And check it again. Yeah, it happened, as you can see. It will never change with more rows. You can add as many other rows as you want. Only if you start with one and then add the second one, it sometimes happens. So now we have these two nodes in our data model, and we can try to visualize it. Infinity Flow extension can be found in Infinity Bundle section, so again, drag and drop it. And all the settings are in Properties panel. So let's start with Node section. Here we need to define what is the field from data model where node ID is defined. In our case, it's this node ID. Again, the field where node type is defined, and the same for label. As you can see, it can be defined by expression, so you can do the magic here. If I click the Save button after I add new row, there is always this pop-up window that says me that the app will be reloaded. If I don't want to have it there, I can very simply add the button that will not only save the data, but also triggers the reload of the application automatically. In Appearance section, there is this Reload Settings subsection. And Recalculate button is exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't want users to think about whether they should use Save or Recalculate, you can simply hide Save button. And right now, whenever I will click on this button, data is stored and reload of the application is triggered automatically, according to these settings in Properties panel. So what's next? I think we are missing lines here. So let's create another write-back table for lines definition. I need to add a dimension so we can use the same approach. After the next reload, I can use line ID as a dimension here and enter two editable fields with information where the line should start and where the line should end. It can be free text, but since we already have these node definitions in our data model, I can create a select box that will utilize this data in data model together with click function. So I can concatenate all values in node ID, and I just need to use semicolon as separator. And best practice is to use this thing. The rest is the same. So I want to allow the option to add new row and reload the application. And also the new data storage to be used according to what I have defined in Forms admin application. Since we want to load this data to a data model, we need to add this section to the script as well. Okay, it's called lines, and it will be line ID. Let's try it. Start to activity. Yeah, this one should be also select box. I will change it later. And now let's check the data model. We have a synthetic key here because there are fields generated by the subroutine. If we want to have them in our data model, we can qualify them, use the qualify function, or we can simply drop this field from a data model. One more important thing, is that if I do any changes right now, a new row in my XML file is created. Okay, let me show it to you. I can change this note to this one. And as you can see, there is this historical record as well as the latest one. And if I want to use only the latest data for all keys in my data model, I just need to add this condition where actual equals 1. And this condition, this field actual, is generated because of this third attribute in my subroutine. And now, yeah, I can drop this field. And there is also another field if you use delete button. So we can also load data that are not deleted. In our data model, we have now two tables, nodes and lines, only with the most actual data from the write-back table. So the next step is to add lines in this process visualization. And again, that can be done in Properties panel. Just enter the name of the field where the data are defined. Right now, I can add a new line here. It will come from activity to end, recalculate, and keep improving it. The first thing I would do is, change this free text to select box. Very simply, because the approach is the same. And I also would like to use other label than recalculate because it may sound technical for some end users. In appearance section, there is this section button labels where I can modify these labels. And make it as seamless for end users as possible. Let's try another one. That can be a decision. And yeah, it's only up to you what you will write in Properties panel. So let's check it after you do any changes. Connect it with the rest of a data model. And what I don't like is that I need to enter this line ID here because it doesn't bring any other value to this use case. So what can I do is to use this cool feature in advanced settings that's auto-generated key. And if I add a new line with this option turned on, I don't have this possibility to enter anything here because it will be generated automatically. There will be a complex string in the XML file that will be unique for every single row I will add here. So as a user of this application, I can be focused only on the data I want and need to enter here. And we can see that this is the string that has been generated. And if I don't want to see it here, because now it looks like, is there something wrong? I can hide this column for end user. There are tons of other options and possibilities you can do with both Infinity Forms, the wrapping extension, and Infinity Flow, this process visualization extension, that I don't think I am able to cover it in one video. So this is the end of this one, but feel free to watch other videos that has been already recorded and to follow our account on YouTube to be informed whenever new technical or any other video will be published. Until then, enjoy forms and flow, guys.